Hi, my name is Mike McGibbon. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can decide between the SAT and the ACT. We're going to cover the best practice tests to use when you're making this decision, how you score them, how you can compare those scores once you have them, and then finally how to make the decision between the SAT and the ACT. So first, it's really important that you use full official practice tests when you are making this decision. You don't want to take something from Kaplan or Princeton Review. You also don't want to take a test that's half of each because you won't have enough questions to make your decision. They'll be inaccurate scores. So you want real tests, and you want to take them timed, just like you would on the actual day. And that way you can have a fair comparison. All right, so the first thing you do is you take the test, and then you're going to use their official scoring guide. And let's just start with the SAT, and I'll show you how you score it. So here we have the SAT answer key. There are actually a lot of other random sheets in their scoring guide, which you can pretty much ignore. I would just focus on first finding out which ones you got right, which ones you got wrong. So it looks like a lot of other answer keys you've probably seen before, and I would just go through and mark the right ones and the wrong ones, and at the end you should have a total. So in this case, I had 42 in the reading, 35 in the writing and language, 12 in the first math, 26 in the second math. And then what you're going to want to do is transfer those scores onto this kind of complicated looking table, but so we said 42 right in the reading, so we put that there. And what you want to do is go to the lower part of this page where they have the conversions. So 42 on reading, so we look at 42 and then we go over, and that converts to a 32. So you can see up here, 42 converted to the 32. And then we got 35 right in the writing and language, and I converted to a 29. So I wrote a 29 here. And then basically you just add the 29 and the 32, the two sub-scores. You get a 61. You multiply that by 10, and you have your verbal score, which is 610. And then we're just going to do the same thing for the math. So you got 12 right in the first math, 26 right in the second math. That adds to 38. I go once again down to this table, and 38's right there. I go all the way over to the math column. That's 580. And so now we've got the 610 we had from the verbal scoring, and then the 580 we just got on the math. Add them up. That's an 1190. Okay, and then when you've scored the SAT, you'll want to score the ACT, and it's very similar. I'll show you how I do that. All right, so here we have the ACT scoring key, and it's got a lot of these other categories. I would actually just ignore those for now and focus on the right and wrong answers. In this case, on the English, there were 55 correct. And on the math, there were 40 correct. And then reading was 28, and the science was 31. So then you're going to go over to this table, and I would write down how many you got correct. So 55 on the English, 40 on the math, 28 on the reading, 31 on the science. And then you need to translate those into scaled scores. So 55 on the English, go down here, 55 translates to a 24. And you're going to write this up here in the upper right-hand corner. 40 right on the math, look here, that's 40. Go across, that's a 26. So we write the 26 up there. On the reading, there were 28 correct. That translates to a 25. And on the science, it was 31 correct, and that also translated to a 25. So altogether, we have scores of 24, 26, 25, 25. Those add up to 100, and then you want to take the average. So 100 divided by 4 is 25. All right, so now we have an SAT score and an ACT score, but we need to compare them. Luckily, the two companies work together to make something called a concordance table, which basically allows you to translate one score to the other. So let me show you how you use that. So now we have our two scores. We had, on the SAT, let's write this out, on the SAT we had an 1190, and on the ACT we had a 25. So we've got our two scores. 1190 on the SAT, 25 on the ACT. We need some way to convert them. And if you see these little asterisks here, those are what they think are the best points of comparison. So the 25 on the ACT is like a 12-10 on the SAT. So the score is like 12-10. And so now you can see that on the SAT, you got an 1190. The ACT was a 25, which was the equivalent of a 12-10. Those are pretty close. If the scores were, like, let's say 100 points apart or more, you would just go with the higher score because that's a pretty significant difference. But if it's within 100 points, then you might want to start considering some other factors. So if the scores are still too close to tell, there are a few factors you might want to consider. Probably the first one is just the science, because the science on the ACT is really unusual. I can't think of another test that has the same things the science has. First of all, you don't even really need to know that much science to do well on it. It's sort of like a logic and chart reading exercise, but for some kids, it's just a total deal breaker. For others, it's not a big deal and they get used to it. So I would think about the science first. The next thing is time pressure. Most students feel like the ACT is just an easier test in terms of content, and if timing were a factor, I think most students would choose the ACT. But you really are crunched for time, particularly on the reading and the science. So if you're looking at your test and you're realizing that, for example, you only had time to even do 3 of the reading passages, and it's mostly because of your reading speed, you might want to choose the SAT. And then the final thing that I would consider is just that SAT reading, because it is very challenging. You've got these excerpts from the Lincoln-Douglas debates, and people talking about suffrage in the 1800s. I mean, it's very difficult language to parse, and you may just not want to deal with that. So for most people, it comes down to the difficulty of the SAT reading versus the time pressure on the ACT and the weirdness of the science on the ACT. And you may need to take another round of these tests. That's not a big deal. A lot of people do it. One thing that's nice is that if you get better at one test, you're going to get better at the other too. So it's not a total waste of time to take one extra ACT just to make sure you're on the right track. All right, I hope that helped. If you have any questions, you can always contact us at team@mathchops.com. Thanks.